This meeting has been provided by advertising in the Courier News and posting notice in the Board of Education Administration Building and District Schools and filing notice with the Borough Clerk. I hereby call to order the regular public meeting, Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, in the Lincoln Middle School Cafetorium, 400 Dunellen Avenue, at 7 p.m. This meeting is broadcast live. Please check www.dunellenschools.org for details. At this time, we are going to an executive session, so the Dunellen Board of Education will now adjourn into executive session to discuss items that fall within specific exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-12B. The confidential matters discussed by the board during the executive session include items related to individual privacy, collective bargaining agreements, pending or anticipated litigation, and personnel. Any discussion that does not need to remain confidential will be made public as soon as it is practical. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. All individuals who may be discussed in executive session have been adequately notified. Action will take place after the conclusion of the executive session. Looking for a motion to go into executive session.
Move to go to exec.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will see you guys back about 7:30. Okay, we are back. So I'd like to ask for a motion to come back into public.
Return to
Motion.
public?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So moving on to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand for Pledge of Allegiance? Flags here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you all please remain standing for a moment of reflection and respect for our troops serving throughout the world, our troops who have served, and our troops who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of our United States of America. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pepe, could you please call the roll for this evening?
Mr. Anderson? Mrs. Condit?
Present.
Mr. Duggan?
Here.
Dr. Gendrano?
Present.
Mrs. Howard?
Here.
Mr. Sanoy? Not here. Ms. Schimpf is not here. Mrs. Shep?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
And Ms. Sophia?
Here.
Okay, we have 7 board members present.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Pepe. So moving on to item number 5, approval of minutes. Looking for a motion to approve 5A and B, which are the minutes from the December 19th board meeting, 2023, as well as the board meeting, which was our organization meeting on January 2nd, 2024. Looking for a motion to approve those 2 items?
Approve 5A and B?
Second.
Open for discussion, comments, questions? I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Pepe, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Duggan?
Yes.
Dr. Gendrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 6, student recognition. May I turn it over to you, Mr. Ross?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Gendrano. Welcome, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many students here and parents. It's great to have you here, as always, for our Student of the Month recognition. And we have, for January, we have some very special students being recognized for the amazing things that they do in their buildings. So without further ado, we will start with Faber Elementary School, and we'll bring up Mr. Tennant.
Thanks, Dave. There we go. Faber Welcome Student of the Month. Our first Student of the Month is Pre-K David Gordano Ciprian. David, come on up. Not here. Well, David is a hardworking student who sets a wonderful example for his peers. He perseveres through challenging tasks and is modeling positive behaviors and classroom routines. He's a pleasure to have in class, and we're so proud of his progress. Congratulations, David. Kindergarten, Penelope Meliano. There she comes. Come on up, Penelope. There you go. Just stand right here, okay? And turn and face Mom, okay? Penelope is very sweet and caring to all her classmates and friends. She is very helpful in the classroom and great with drawing and coloring. She always puts her best effort forward and always does everything as best she can do. Congratulations, Penelope. First grade, we have Callie Mundy. There's Callie back there. Callie's a very laid-back student who does not get frazzled by anyone or anything. Wow. She is helpful, sweet, and kind to all. Academically, Callie always strives to do her best. She is a great student and a friend to all her classmates. Congratulations, Callie. Second grade with Melanie Aguilar Archilla. Melanie, there she is. Congratulations, Melanie. Stand right over here. Melanie is amazing and a behavioral role model for her classmates. She never complains about anything, and she's always had a great attitude and always puts best forth her best effort. She is a sweet, kind, respectful girl and a great classmate to all. Congratulations, Melanie. Third grade, we have Isabella Rosas Gonzalez. Izzy is someone who always comes to class with a positive attitude and gives her best effort. She deserves this honor because she has gone way above and beyond for all her students, and she has moved here from another country. She always makes sure that she understands the instructions, helps others in learning, and does great with her friendships. She shares these same selfless qualities with all those others in class. Congratulations, Isabella. Fourth grade, we have Xander Robertson, but Xander could not be here tonight. Xander's a hardworking individual who approaches each assignment with grit and determination. He doesn't back down from the challenges, always does everything he wants to accomplish and what he needs to do. Congratulations, Xander. Fifth grade, we have two students. First is Tiffany Barrera Ratena. That's a big smile. I like that. Tiffany makes everywhere she goes a better place. She is exceptional in every way. Mr. Burry is most impressed with her work ethic, which is unmatched, but most importantly, she shares her talents with everyone around her. Tiffany is a helper unless you're playing soccer against her, at which point you'll need someone to help you stop her. She is the most deserving of this honor and most definitely will not be her last recognition in school. Congratulations, Tiffany. Next fifth grade we have is Tymir Dorsey. Tymir, come on up. I am so proud and honored to name Tymir Dorsey Student of the Month. Ms. Healy says Tymir is hardworking, caring student who works cooperatively with his peers and teachers. He's also a proud member of the Safety Patrol team and has recently joined choir. Tymir has shown growth in regards to independence and his level of maturity the school year. Congratulations, Tymir. Great job. And last but not least, special areas, we have Eddie Kowalik. Come on up, Eddie. Congrats, Eddie. Eddie is a polite, kind young man who helps all staff and students. He's a pleasure to teach and is active in the Dunellen schools. He's active in chess club and music. Eddie always has helping hand and willingness to learn in specials. Eddie greets the staff and students with a hello. Eddie is not only active in the school, but he's worked for scouting. He has created his own tie-dye shirt stand where he sold tie-dye shirts at the Harvard Fest and the open-air markets in town. Eddie is always willing to help out PTO and other organizations. Congratulations, Eddie. Great job, buddy. Big round of applause for Faber Students of the Month.
Parents, feel free to come up to the front and grab a picture. All right, thank you, Mr. Tennant. So next, Lincoln Middle School and Mr. Altmeyer.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. At Lincoln Middle School, we have 3 students that we are proud to announce as our Students of the Month. I always announce that this student or these students that have been recognized or selected have been selected by a committee of teachers, which makes more to me than rather than just one individual identifying one student. So a group of teachers and myself have identified these students as our Students of the Month at Lincoln Middle School. The first student in 6th grade, Gabriela Cardenas Suarez, if you can come forward, please. Gabriela is a very respectful and conscientious student. She is always prepared for school, volunteers during instructional periods, and actively participates in classroom activities. Gabriela maintains a high standard for herself, both academically and personally. She is always willing to help the teachers and her fellow classmates. Gabriela is a pleasure to have at LMS and is seen consistently with a smile on her face. Congratulations, Gabriela. Next up, our 7th grade representative, Kaylee Garcia Castro. Come forward, please. The 7th grade teachers would like to congratulate Kaylee for being recognized as our Student of the Month. Kaylee is a good example for her peers to follow. She values her education and works extremely hard in all of her classes. Kaylee always comes to class prepared to listen, to learn, and to put forth her best effort in work. When working collaboratively with her peers, she always contributes to the group and stays on task. In addition, Kaylee is always kind and courteous towards her teachers and classmates. Congratulations again to Kaylee. And our 8th grade representative, Colin De Silva. The 8th grade team of teachers is proud to announce Colin De Silva as Student of the Month. Colin is being recognized for his exceptional qualities and contributions at LMS. He has established himself as a reliable and supportive peer within the student body. Colin is respectful to fellow classmates and faculty alike and is a role model for the school community. He not only completes his assignments, but also goes the extra mile to help his peers understand the content. He actively participates in classroom discussions, fostering an engaging and collaborative learning environment. We appreciate Colin's positive influence and uplifting spirit. Congratulations for this well-earned recognition, Colin. Congratulations again to our 3 Students of the Month, and we appreciate them for making LMS an outstanding place to learn and develop.
Parents, if you'd like to come up, grab some pictures. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Lynch and Dunellen High School.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to represent Dunellen High School. Before I get to the Students of the Month, I do want to just recognize one individual that is also here this evening. We don't have a swim team here at Dunellen High School, but this past weekend we had the GMC Championships, and a young lady in our school participated for Dunellen High School. So I want to recognize Gabriela Rosas Gonzalez over here. And although he's not here, Jason Young also participated in swimming for us too. So Devin, tell him I mentioned his name, okay? All right. So we have our Students of the Month that I do want to recognize. Our 9th grade Student of the Month, Rose Ciccolella. Rose has done a fantastic job so far in high school. She's very much gotten involved in school activities. She was the starting goalie for the girls' soccer team back in the fall. She's now playing on the girls' basketball team, and her time has increased significantly as the season has gone on. And come springtime, softball, correct? So she'll be a 3-sport athlete here at Dunellen High School in addition to being an excellent student. So congratulations, Rose. In 10th grade, Elmer Vargas Estrada. As a 10th grade student, Elmer also has done a fantastic job here at the high school, 9th grade, and then continuing into 10th grade. He's gotten active in school, doing track back in the spring, correct? Doing it again this year? Excellent. And he comes from a family of athletes that participated in track, and he's one of these families that the number of cousins that, as we talk about the Vargas family, in discussions with him, finding out who was related to whom really amazes me over time. So he's done a fantastic job, and it's been great getting to know his family over the years. Elmer, congratulations. Our next 2 individuals are not here, but I will speak about them. Our 11th grade student is Kevin Roberts. Kevin moved to Dunellen just last year in late fall, early winter, and when we saw him show up, we knew he was a football player, but he had missed the fall season, and when he got to play this year, he showed everyone what he was made out of. He was one of the leaders on the offensive and defensive lines. He did a fantastic job. He is one of the nicest individuals you will ever meet, so respectful, well-spoken, and nice to everyone around school. And so the 11th grade Student of the Month is Kevin Roberts. And finally, our 12th grade Student of the Month is Alexis Rankins. Alexis, another fantastic student, has her college applications out there, waiting to hear back. One of the reasons she was nominated and won Student of the Month was our 12th grade counselor, Mr. Best, put something out to all of the students as far as a volunteering opportunity. And Alexis was one of the first ones to come up to him and say she really wanted to participate in it. It's with Hackensack Meridian Health, and she's done a lot of volunteering several days a week with that organization and has done a really fantastic job putting herself out there and helping others. So our 12th grade Student of the Month, Alexis Rankins.
Parents, if you want to grab some pictures, please feel free. All right, thank you, principals, so much. And congratulations, students. Congratulations, parents. Really a wonderful honor. We're very, very pleased that you could join us tonight. We have a long meeting ahead. We'd love if you're interested in staying, but of course, if not, we'll take about a 5-minute break so that everyone can take off. Thank you again. Have a wonderful night.
hold this. Like if you're gonna be like, if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
wander a little bit, I don't know how locked in you're gonna be here.
But this one's on. Yeah, okay.
If it picks you up too, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
All right.
Gee, thanks. Okay. Hello, check. Okay, we are back. So moving on to item number 7, President's Remarks. Just take a few minutes just to say a few words here. So good evening. Welcome to our January 30th, 2024 Dunellen Board of Education meeting. This is our first officially scheduled board meeting for 2024. Yay. So for those joining us here for the first time, we meet as a governing body of the school district. We donate our time out of deep compassion for our students and work to make decisions based on what we believe will best help all of our students be successful. We meet once a month here in the cafetorium for a public meeting, and it covers school district updates, updates from our student representatives, student recognitions like we just saw, as well as important presentations. Our agendas are posted prior to the meeting on our Dunellen School District website, along with past agendas and attachments. So please feel free to take a look at what we discussed over in the past, and I invite you to join us monthly in our discussion. So take a moment here just to recognize and congratulate again all the students who were recognized this evening. We're proud and so proud of their accomplishments, and please keep up the great work. We have a lot of great students. Staying healthy as the weather changes and the temperature has dropped, right? It's important to underscore that healthy kids, I said this before, I'll say it again, healthy kids means healthy schools, which means a healthy community. So from the New Jersey Department of Health, with 1,720 schools submitting reports as of the week ending January 13th, there were actually 3 COVID-19 outbreaks reported in K through 12 schools across New Jersey. 1 in Bergen County, but 2 of them in Middlesex County. So it's close. RSV percent positivity and percentage for emergency department visits with RSV have been decreasing since mid-December, so that's a good thing. And the percentage of schools reporting non-flu respiratory outbreaks has slightly decreased, which is also good. As of the week ending January 20th, flu activity level has been high statewide. There have been 2 confirmed influenza-associated pediatric deaths reported this season thus far. So the bottom line is here we encourage you to take common sense precautions like washing hands well, covering up when sneezing, keeping sick kids home, and keeping current with vaccinations to minimize the spread of infectious diseases. Those can really impact our school year. As I do every month, just to recognize what are some of the monthly celebrations. We're coming up to the end of January, but we celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday. There was a National Day of Racial Healing on the 16th. There was Holocaust Remembrance Day on the 27th. And this was also School Board Recognition Month. Governor Murphy signed that into law, I guess, last year in December. December of 2022. Looking ahead, February is Black History Month. There's also Lunar New Year. I mention all these things really just to underscore the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the fabric of our daily lives and the impact that has on our community. So open, honest, and equitable communication that's respectful, positive, supportive, fair, and most of all kind goes a long way in strengthening our community. As we embark on 2024, I think it's important to acknowledge all the hard work and be thankful for all the progress we've made in 2023. A lot was accomplished, but we have plenty more to do. Looking ahead, I'm excited for all the possibilities, the changes we've made thus far since this time last year. All those changes have afforded us, especially the changes that are going to move our school district forward and put us on a better path to success. I can't wait to see what 2024 brings, and I'm glad we as a board and our Dunellen community are continuing to work together to achieve that success. Lastly, I wanted to thank the community for your support and confidence, giving us board members the opportunity to serve the Dunellen community. I would like to also thank my fellow board members for electing me to another term as president. It's my honor and privilege to serve as the Board of Education president. So let's go 2024, and thank you for letting me bend your ear for a little bit. Mr. Ross, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Gendrano. So we have a number of items in the superintendent's report. We're going to start today with the student report. So I will turn the mic over to Sophia.
Hello. So the girls basketball team are having a really great season with a record of 12-5. Yesterday they played against Perth Amboy Magnet with a score of 46-28, and their top scorer was Wendy Wall with 18 points. And Wendy, being only a sophomore, is their top scorer of the season and is building up a really impressive record. The boys basketball team won against Highland Park 66-54, and their top scorer was Ryan Hutchins with 20 points. The play students are currently in early rehearsal process of the musical, and so far is looking and sounding really good. And so a few weeks ago, actor and model Darius Jordan Lee came in for an acting workshop with our drama club, and he helped us develop our characters more and gave us really good insight on what the pros and cons of being an actor are. Miss Piano has been teaching us about the music side to Black American history and how music had a huge role in it, and everything else that connected to it, like breakdancing, rapping, and graffiti art. So she's having someone come in who is an expert graffiti artist to teach us graffiti, and myself, along with many others, are really excited about this. The seniors sold pizza during exam days, and every time we thought we wouldn't sell, we were surely wrong. Sophomores are having an early Valentine's Day bake sale on February 1st, and the juniors have a fundraiser with Chipotle coming out, which is fun. This Friday is exciting. It's Dunellen's Got Talent, run by the PTO, and all the proceeds go to the DHS Performing Arts. And there's a total of 27 acts from elementary, middle to high school students, also including staff, who will be showing off their talents. Midterms week was a little chaotic with the snow days and midterms getting pushed back, but I think the extra day to study really helped a lot of students, and I know it helped me. Most colleges have given their acceptance letters, so now our amazing seniors are being rewarded for all their hard work, and there's a bulletin board in the hallway that has students' names next to it where they got into, so if you ever pass it, you should check that out. You might see me up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. All right, so moving on, we're going to invite our wonderful auditor up for his annual presentation. Anthony Ardito has been district auditor for longer than I've been here, which isn't really saying that much, is it? 10 years? 2015, so 9 years. Yes, and Mr. Ardito was really instrumental in working with me last year as we put together the sidebar for the DEA, just in terms of understanding our finances and where we stood. So without further ado, Mr. Ardito.
Great.
Yep.
Projector, right?
You probably have this. I'll hand them out. Print them off.
I got one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're good. I'm going to move around so I don't get blind.
Okay, so again, my name's Anthony Ardito, partner with Ardito and Company. We completed the 2023 audit, June 30th, 2023. Just recently, we issued the audit report, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So the audit has been issued and filed with the state. A lot of years that we have to wait for certain information from the state, which puts us a little bit behind. In the old days, we used to do the audit and we'd have it out a month later. But we completed the field work back in October, and now the audit is complete. This financial presentation, I have 5 slides to go over. We'll talk about the high-level finances of the school, and then I'll talk about the audit. So this first slide here shows your governmental fund expenditures, a total of $36,154,000. It's a pie chart, and you see down at the left-hand corner is instruction, $8.7 million. That's the largest portion of your pie. That's teacher's salary and direct classroom supplies that are included in that. As we go clockwise around the pie chart, we have tuition, almost $1 million there, and that's mainly for special ed students, the ESC being the biggest one. Support at $7.8 million almost, right above that. And that's everything that supports your instruction function. Improvement instructional services, you have your guidance in there, health services, your child study team is also in there, media library, anything that supports your instruction area. Everything else kind of falls in the other buckets as we'll go around. G&A, general administration, almost $2.2 million, 6.1% of your pie. The average for the state of New Jersey is about 8%, so you're doing well there in containing your G&A expenditures. Everything in there is, superintendent's office, all your principals, secretarial, the Board of Ed office. Also, you have legal expenses, audit fees, all your communications and telephone expenses. IT department is in there, and different general supplies. Plant and maintenance, about 11 o'clock, $1.9 million. That's everything to run your schools, your custodial salaries, maintenance and cleaning, repair, insurance, all of your utilities is in that plant and maintenance slice there. Transportation at the top, about $800,000. That's mostly special ed with the ESC again. Also includes athletic and field trips, anything that requires student transportation, contracting with other districts such as South Plainfield, and also parent-provided transportation is in there. Next, at 1 o'clock, it looks like a large slice of pie, which it is. This is called on-behalf benefits. You don't actually pay for these, but in governmental accounting, we have to show it. What that is what the state pays for your teacher's pension and for your teacher's health insurance post-retirement. So those payments, the state gives us that number, $4.4 million. Governmental accounting says we have to show that as an expenditure, and we show the exact same dollar amount as a revenue. So they offset each other, and it has no impact to your budget, has no impact to your fund balance, but it's there for presentation purposes. Right below that is employee benefits, $4.1 million. Most of that's health insurance. $3.4 million of that is health insurance. There's also, the employer match for Social Security, the PERS payment, which is your non-teacher's pension contribution, workers' comp, any tuition reimbursements that you have are all in that employee benefit line item. About 3 o'clock, special revenue, $1.3 million. That's all of your federal spending on grants. So all your IDEA, all your title programs, all the COVID grants, ESSER 1, 2, and 3. We're now in the midst of finishing up number 3, which is the American Rescue Plan, ARP, and that'll be spent down by September of 2024. Down below there is debt service, $2.6 million. That's on the 2 bonds that you have. You have a bond from 2012, has a $4.5 million balance. And then in 2020, you did a referendum, and that referendum bond is now spent down to $21 million. So you have $25.5 million. You have a long way to go to pay these down. The 2020 referendum ends in 2035 is the last payment that you'll make on that. And down below, capital outlay. That's mostly spending on that referendum project. You've been spending on that throughout the years. and the Faber classroom addition. The referendum project was $2.4 million of that, and the Faber classroom project was $3.8 million of that $6.4 million. If we flip the page, we take a look at expenditures again, but over a 5-year period, starting in 2019. Now, the blue line there is your 2019 expenditures of $18.4 million, adjusted for inflation, compounded annually. So from 19 to 20, it was 2%. 21, it was 4.7%. 22, it was 7.7, and in 23, it's around 3.7%. So you can see inflation is leveling off. The green bar is your actual expenditures. So we start off at $18.4 million. You're below inflation by 2021, but then you take a big jump from 21 to 22. And you say, wow, we spent a lot of money. But the reason that happened last year in 22 and this year in 23 is you had a large increase in your state aid. So you got that state aid money, you're able to put that to work in different educational areas. So there was spending across the board in order to utilize that state aid. The biggest jump from 21 to 22 was debt service, because that 2020 referendum needed to start to be paid. So that went up $1.4 million in 1 year. Instruction was the next largest increase, and the same holds true for 2023. Across the board increases in all the items. You had a $1.5 million increase in state aid last year in 2023. The largest increases were in instruction and support and benefits, and very little increase in admin and plant maintenance last year. And just one note on this schedule, it excludes capital projects and those on-behalf benefits that I talked about. So these are purely your operating expenditures, so that they're comparable. Next page is your revenues over a 5-year period. Again, these revenue sources, mainly two of them, support your entire budget. The largest being state aid, which is that orange triangle there. And you could see, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it went up from 21 to 22, and then more in 2023. So that's your largest revenue source now, followed closely behind by the tax levy, which you could see is pretty stable over the last number of years, to keep the impact down to the taxpayers. Down at the bottom, we have federal revenue. That's the black line, and again, that's all your COVID money, all your IDEA title money, $1.2 million. And down at the very, very bottom, and I'm mentioning this more and more, local revenue. We don't see hardly any local revenue anymore in our schools. That's $77,000 there, and $32,000 of that is interest income. And I've been mentioning this to all of our schools. The banks have been getting away with murder with their interest rates. As you know, interest has been going up, but the banks have not been giving out interest unless you ask. So Provident, who you deal with, you have almost $18 million in the bank with them. And they're only giving a 0.15%. So I would say now may be the time to give them a call and say you're going to maybe shop your banks, unless they come forth. I have another client up north in North New Jersey School District. They have Provident also, and they went from 0.15 to 4.4. So going from that to 4.4 would earn you another $800,000 a year. So that might be something to look into. Next page. This is your excess fund balance. Now, as you know, you're only allowed to have 2% of expenditures in unreserved fund balance. If you have more than that, it's called excess fund balance. So if you look at 2023, the red bar is the amount that you were allowed to have, $747,000. That's your 2%. In 22 and 21, you're allowed to have 4%, and the state allowed you to do that to accumulate extra unreserved surplus because of COVID. But now it's back down to 2%. You came in at 2.3 million. So the difference between the 747,000 and the 2.3 million is called excess. That's 1,554,000. So that 1,554,000 automatically gets plugged in as a revenue. You're not allowed to keep it as a revenue in your fiscal 25 budget. So at the end of 23, we calculate 1.5. It goes in as a revenue automatically to balance your fiscal 25 budget. In fiscal 24, the excess was $756,000. So you're almost $800,000 more going into the 2025 budget than you were in the 2024 budget. And this is all coming and generated because you underspent your budget last year. And you can see in the prior couple of years you underspent it also. Part of that excess is generated because they went back down to 2%, so you had to give up about $250,000 back in excess because now it's back down to 2% and not the 4%. But the rest is from underspending your budget. Next page is all of your fund balance components. Now, the previous page we just talked about unrestricted fund balance, unreserved fund balance, and that's at the very bottom there, $747,000 on the left bottom. And above that is the excess that you had in fiscal 22 that's going to the fiscal 24 budget. As of June 30th, 23, you still have that money in your fund balance because you didn't start using it until the next day, July 1st, 2023, for fiscal 24. Above top, that white slice, that's the 1.5 excess that we just talked about in the previous slide. We go around unemployment comp, that's just your account you have set up for unemployment. Encumbrances, just open POs you have at the end of the year that need to be reserved for when those services are provided. And down below, your largest piece, capital reserve, $1.845 million. You were able to grow that this year. You start off with $1.1 million at the end of last year. You budgeted taking out $4.3 million of that. You didn't have 4.3, but you budgeted it anyway because you knew you were going to generate some excesses. That 4.3 went to fund the Faber classrooms, 3.3 million, and also 1 million went to debt service. So you're using your capital reserve for capital projects and to fund debt service. That is funding your capital projects. If you remember, in June of every year, you pass a resolution that says any unspent expenditures, appropriations, any extra revenues, you're allowed to plow it back into capital reserve to the tune of $5 million. So you passed that resolution, you had unspent money, you put the max in, $5 million, you took $4.3 million out, so now you're left with a $1.845 million capital reserve, really healthy level for you guys. So all in all, total fund balance at the top, $5,215,000, which is a very healthy situation that you guys are in this district. Any questions on the numbers or finance side? All right, so we completed the audit, and we do have a couple audit recommendations. Let me see if I don't know if I can get this bigger. Maybe about, there we go. Okay, we have two audit recommendations. One is that the district should document and implement internal controls to monitor the preparation of bank reconciliations, to ensure that bank accounts are properly reconciled to the underlying general ledger account detail. So what this means is you have your bank statement and you reconcile it to what you have recorded on your books. We found last year that they were prepared, but they were prepared improperly. So when Rich went back, he went back to the beginning of the year and worked his way forward, July of 22 all the way through the end of the year, and found a bunch of different things. Found transactions that the bank had recorded that were not recorded on the books, so they needed to be recorded. And we found also transactions that were recorded on the books, but the bank didn't have. And they were mainly bank transfers, where the district said, we're going to transfer X amount of dollars from general fund to the payroll agency to pay payroll, but we never told the bank to actually physically make the transfer. So we're in the midst of cleaning that up. As of June 30th, 2023, the reconciliations are completed, and Rich has a good footprint to go forward and a good starting point to make sure that that's continually happening throughout the year. The second item, this was something that happened. The board should monitor federal programs and request cash reimbursements subsequent to the program expenditure. So this happened in your ARP program for IDA ARP and IDA preschool ARP, ARP being American Rescue Plan. Those funds were drawn down and there were no expenditures related to it. You're only supposed to draw down reimbursements when you spent the money first. It's a reimbursable grant. This happened before Rich got here. It was probably August, September last year that they were drawn down. We seem to think that probably the prior BA had an idea of where the money he was going to take it from. He probably spent it in your regular Fund 10 budget. He was probably going to reclassify it, but we have no idea what that was. I don't think that they would have that he would have just drawn down the money without having an idea of where it was going to be spent. But it never got spent in the right bucket, and we have no idea what that could have been. So subsequently, Rich has identified expenditures that can be applied to that grant. So those grants are taken care of. You won't have to give the money back, but you should put controls in place that you only draw down the money once the funds are spent, and you could see them on your books being spent. So those are the two recommendations. All in all, I think we had a great audit. Rich and his team and Dan and everyone in the office there were very helpful to us, getting us everything we need. We perform a lot of our audits remotely, especially since COVID happened. We've learned to do a lot of electronic back and forth with files, but we still show up. We spend a few days here doing some of the things that are not conducive to passing files back and forth. But thank you very much, admin department and Board of Ed for their support for the audit. Any questions for me? Sure.
Yeah, you can talk about it, and then I want to ask a question about budgeted fund balance.
So I'm very happy to report that this past week we did transfer about $10 million, almost $10 million out of Provident Bank.
Oh, good.
Into a fund that's getting us 5.3% interest.
Nice.
And
You must have been reading my mind.
And yes, and part B of that is that I have, as soon as I did that, I got a call from Provident Bank, and I have a meeting with them tomorrow to talk about our interest rate.
Nice.
So,
Is the next step talk to Geico? Oh, sorry.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
So Anthony, I wanted to ask you about the fund balance components.
Yes.
So this is slide 5 on the
Yep.
presentation. And if you're interested, because I know you're interested in the audit, everything is online. So now it's all linked in there. So The budgeted fund balance for the current year is that 756 number.
Right,
The budgeted fund balance for next year is 1.5 million.
right.
Can you talk about what that means for us in terms of planning for this year? And I mean, that's a very large budgeted fund balance. Can you just kind of explain to the board a little bit about what that means, and then what that means in terms of our requirements for this year's budget when we
Right.
plan?
Yeah, so you have about $800,000 more of revenue source. And of course, you know that your revenues have to equal your appropriations. Your appropriations, meaning your expenditure plan, they have to balance. So you're going to have to put together a budget that has expenditures that match up to your revenues. And that might be a challenge to do. You don't want to just spend $800,000 because you have it, because the following year you might not have it.
Right.
So then you budgeted an expenditure, spent it, and now the following year you don't have excess surplus to support that ongoing expenditure. So I tell a lot of my school districts to be safe, try not to budget reoccurring new appropriations with this new money, because it might not be reoccurring. A lot of districts will earmark that money for one-time capital projects, and you could earmark it for debt service. You want to pay down debt service one time. There's a lot of different things that you could do. If you look at your excess surplus history over the last number of years, it's always been around that 700,000. It was like 2.1 million, like I think 3 years ago, but it came down to 700,000. So sometimes districts don't even plan on spending that money, but they appropriate it, and then they never spend it, and then that just builds up excess for the following year. It's just a revolving door of having this high excess number. But if you did have a reason to budget it for one-time type expenditures, that would probably be my recommendation going forward.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Board members, do you have any questions for Anthony? No? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
No, you may want to. Usually you're sitting over there, so I can sort of make. No, not you. All right, so so district goals mid-year update is part of the process that we sort of put into place last year when I first came to the district. I think it's important that the district goals not only sort of breathe life into the things that we do on a daily basis, but that the board hear about the types of initiatives that we've been going throughout the year, and get this mid-year update, and then of course have some sort of update at the end of the year, whether that's a State of the Schools address, which is what I'm planning for later in the spring, or something just sort of related to that, just so that you get a sense of it. We're working on this every day, but as a board, I know we talk about it a little bit in committee, but we don't really kind of, organize. As an organizing principle, we don't necessarily use the goals. So this is a similar presentation to last year. in terms of the structure, the objectives are the same, which is identifying the district goals, recognizing how we use them, and then understanding the progress on each of the goals. So the district goals are linked here. This presentation is available on the website if you're interested in looking at it or sharing it. We have statements of purpose in 3 key areas that are listed there. We know goal 1 is academic, goal 2 is about school climate and student wellness, and goal 3 is about construction and fiscal health. So in the goal presentation, initially, we talk about the deliverables, and then as we go, right, this really serves as the foundation of our work. So we talk about, is this a goal 1 object, or is this a goal 2 type of thing? And that's really how we discuss the district goals. So here are the goals and the language, which you're familiar with, so I won't take more time with it, but we have, again, academic success, student wellness and school climate, and then construction progress and fiscal health. So I am a huge believer in the aligned systems framework. So we have a set of principles that we use that are kind of the umbrella for everything that we do, and things should flow from that. So when we talk about district goal number 1 and we talk about academic success, we're looking at ways to imbue that into professional development plans, the school-based goals, the admin goals, our individual staff members' professional development plans, all of the PD work that we do, collaboration, teacher leadership, et cetera, our budget, grants, programmings, et cetera, right? When we look at grants that we're interested in applying for, we always say, you know, does this fit into what we're doing? Is this worth our time? Or is this a sort of separate and outside type of initiative? Obviously, we talk about them in our board committee agendas, and obviously there's much more than that. But really what we do is we focus all of our work on the district goals, and things should flow from there. So the way that I did this presentation for today, and I thank my admin team for reviewing this and providing a lot of insight as well, is I was thinking about, with each of the goals, how could I sort of identify key leverage points for each of the goals? So where do we really focus our attention, and how does that focus actually result in action? So for goal 1, we have 4 key leverage points. We have a shift from intervention and referral to tiered system of supports. We have an improved focus on multilingual learners. We have professional development and training, and we have core and after-school programming. And I'll get into each of these when we go into those slides in particular. For goal 2, we also have the same number 1, which is the shift from intervention and referral to a tiered system of supports. And for both of these, for academic and for student wellness and school climate, we're talking about a response-based approach to student learning, which is much more proactive. That's the tiered system, as opposed to intervention and referral, which is much more reactive. So a student has demonstrated significant challenges that have not been met in the current program, and then we look at, you know, changing program or providing significant modifications to the program to improve that student's potential outcomes. Urban assembly, which we've talked quite a bit about, structured supports, and parent and community engagement are the other key leverage points for goal 2. Goal 3, we have budgets, grants, and other revenue sources. As you heard from Mr. Ardito, we are in good shape right now, but we also are heading towards the fiscal cliff of ESSER funds running out. So we've got to find good resources and revenue sources for future projects. We have construction management, which has been a very large part of my work for the last year and a half, ongoing projects, and personnel and capacity. So for each of the goals, I've really just kind of laid it out by the key leverage points. I'm not going to read everything on here for obvious reasons, but I do want to just kind of talk about a couple of key points. For each of the leverage points, I've identified a sort of a statement of purpose, right? Why do we focus on this particular key leverage point? And then what are some key aspects that fit within it? So from the shift to the tiered system of supports, we have really 2 big pieces. One is understanding what those are and how that works, which has really been a culture shift, specifically and really most importantly at the elementary school. And then just a data culture, a culture of data and assessment and data collection and data understanding, which really drives the ability for us to provide appropriate interventions. So the tiered system of supports, we've developed a tiered systems guidebook, which we've looked at as an admin team. The board has seen. We haven't shared it with staff members yet because there's a lot going on, and I think it's not particularly the most helpful thing in the day-to-day right now for teachers. But we've got tiered screenings and supports. We have a huge number of new resources that have been used to provide direct intervention to students who have identified needs within their particular classes, and this is in language arts and mathematics primarily. We have a new process of screening and intervention, which has taken place at Faber and is well on its way. And the sort of output for all of this is we have a reduction in the number of referrals to the INRS process as compared to last year. INRS is a very common process that schools, INRS is a process that's delegated by statute and board policy, and it exists in every school district. The way that INRS is often used is as a dumping ground for students who can't make the grade in a particular course. And it is a process that sort of gets abused in a way because kids in many circumstances, they don't get kind of all of the resources and interventions and supports that they might be accustomed to or that they should get within the general classroom environment. So with all of that as the sort of backdrop for it, they then get pushed into a process where they're meeting with a team of specialists who's trying to figure out what's happening with those students. And then there's this plan that's developed for them. But what we know about good instruction is that really good tier 1 instruction, right, really good tier 1 intervention is sufficient for most students in terms of meeting their needs. So when we have interventions that have been tried, that have been researched, that have been time-bound, that have been delivered appropriately, and then we provide a second tier of intervention and then a third tier of intervention, and these things are all done well, if a student's still not making appropriate growth, that means that we've identified that despite our best efforts, there might be a change in program that's required. And so that's where the INRS system is really valuable, because then it brings in special educators, related service providers who have significant expertise in a wide range of areas, and they can do educational testing and psychological testing and things like that. So rather than sort of start at that point, what we would prefer to do with the tiered system is we end at that point only and if only all of the interventions have not succeeded. So on the data side, we've really been working on a data culture. We've been talking about data warehousing and a really significant amount of normed assessments, and of course formative assessment data gathering, which is something that we're still working on from an instructional perspective. Number 2 is improved focus on multilingual learners. You all know that we've seen a significant increase in our population of multilingual learners. We now have a 16.4% of our population is identified as ML, 22.7% of students at Faber, and this is only K-12. So we're talking about 1 in 4, 1 in 5 students at Faber is a multilingual learner, which is really a significant number. So we have shifted, and Ms. Drapkin really deserves a huge amount of credit for this, to a push-in model of support. And this is the way that we're also delivering intervention. Rather than pulling students out of the classroom, right, where English is spoken and there's this rich dialogue happening in the home language or in the native language, the pull-out model often removes students from that English experience and that English immersion. The push-in model, to the contrary, allows them to stay in that environment where they can really access English much more of the day and increase their proficiency by leaps and bounds. And so we've been working with the classroom teachers and we've been working with the ESL teachers to provide this type of intervention for language learning. We added a staff member last year. We added another ESL staff member this year, and now we have 6 ESL teachers in the district, which is fantastic. We are looking at potentially adding more ESL support in next year's budget. We've been using mid-year exits and increased use of the WEDM model screener. When students perform or demonstrate a certain level of proficiency on the screener, they exit the ESL program, and obviously what that means is that there's more room then for teachers to provide support to students who are newcomers or who have different types of learning needs. And we've been doing a lot of training. There is a sheltered English instruction model, which is really kind of the gold standard of instruction for meeting the needs of multilingual learners. We've brought in folks, and we have folks going to TESOL trainers to develop SIOP and SEI classes, and we've been using instructional coaching as well. The third piece of this is systemized professional development and training. Really, this has been prioritized by instructional coaching. We've talked a lot about instructional coaching. I made the determination that we needed to bring people in who are experts as instructional coaches rather than hire instructional coaches, because it gave us the ability to leverage a wide range of expertise and supports. So from that list, we have a STEM expert, we have a language arts expert at the secondary level, we have ESL experts, we have early childhood experts, we have science experts, PE and health experts. So, you know, just that list is a really amazing range of folks that we've been able to bring in to help support staff members. There's been a lot of teacher leadership. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my superintendent's report, but ed camps and after-school presentations has been something that we've really tried to prioritize. We've been focusing a lot more on data and how to use data during all of the team meetings. We've re-engaged with the Boggs Center at Rutgers University, not only for PBSIS support, but also for CBI support, which is for special education. And we had the TechLea partnership, which we applied to, which is Transforming Early Childhood Literacy Institute, which had some good benefits, some of which included meeting some of the folks that are doing some of the coaching for us. The last piece is really core and after-school programming. So as we talk about instruction, we also talk about programming. If we have good core instruction, then we're going to be able to meet the needs of more of our students. So we are looking at, we're piloting right now a core resource in language arts in elementary, and that seems to be going very well. There seems to be a clear sort of leader in that pilot, which you know, we're very likely to implement for next year. We've been adding a lot of different types of programs, including decodable texts, which meets the needs of sort of the science of reading and early dyslexia screening and those sorts of things. We've been doing a lot of work recently with world language, adoption and review for next year. We built a heritage speakers class, which I know was something that Mr. Trotta spoke about for many years here at the board table when he was a board member. And that's going to be put in place very shortly. We've been using virtual reality and math in grade 6-12, looking at core resources there. And then we've got a lot of curriculum writing as new standards are bound to come out in 24-25 to be implemented. We've also expanded our after-school programming. A lot of this has been grant-based. We received the High Impact Tutoring Grant, which was $76,000. We also have been running after-school enrichment programs. This is paid for through the ESSER 3 ARP grant. And then we've also increased the STEM opportunities. Students to science who we touched base with last year and who spent some time with us in the summer, they're going to be doing a program at the middle school, and then the Harry Potter Science Club is being put together by Miss Brown at the elementary school as part of our new STEM lab down there. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is student wellness and school climate. These 4 indicators are you know, similar in nature. In terms of the shift to tiered systems of supports, again, we're talking about being proactive rather than reactive. And you know, a lot of this is how do you reach students in the classroom? So how do you give students time and attention in small group instruction just to have conversations with them and make them feel like they have support, and you can identify the needs that they might have. Obviously, there's a lot of sensory instruction that can be undertaken to make students comfortable, et cetera. But a lot of this, again, is basically just tier 1 good instruction. What does it look like? How do you support kids? And collecting data and working with your colleagues. Urban Assembly has been our instructional coaches for school climate, our school climate coaches, I should say. They've been working with our school-based climate teams and our administrative teams, doing a lot of great work in that realm. The reason that we went with Urban Assembly, not only the great resources that they have, but also because they have a wonderful implementation rubric, which point by point helps every school district that engages with it make significant change within the district. So our teams are working through that, talking about common language around expectations. There's just good things happening that are being done. Middle school has big projects, the high school has big projects, Faber as well. And again, a lot of this is walkthroughs, coaching, understanding best practices, and sort of pushing that stuff out again. Our structured supports will probably look different next year, but currently this year we have Thrive in-house. They have 2 counselors on site every day, so we refer students who have significant needs or challenges to them. We have lunch groups, obviously PBSIS here or over at Faber, other items. We also added 2 counselors last year in the budget for this year. So our counselors at Faber and the middle school started this year. We also added an additional school psychologist. We added 2 interventionists, and we also added an ESL teacher. So a lot of supports for our students with particular needs. Students of the Month, which we just went through, we have a lot of assemblies. Ms. Hoy actually has been really doing a great job working with outside vendors and providers to put those events together. We just have to figure out how to get more parents to attend them. Student celebrations. Today we had the second celebration for students who exited the ESL program from grades 6 through 12. So we had about 25 students and their families came in for bagels and coffee and munchkins, which was really wonderful. And we have some counselors pushing into the classrooms, certainly K-8, and teaching SEL lessons. Parent and family and community engagement we know is a big partnership aspect, right? If parents are engaged and supporting the school district, then there's a better chance that we can make those connections. So here is just a list of things that we've done. Significant items this year really is just the increase of childcare support for evening events, and this has been done through Dunellen High School. So we have now advisors for that, and we have a lot of students who have used the time to gain their service hours. We have a lot of engagement sessions that we've been working on, and as preschool comes in, we'll have some advisory committee meetings. We're also moving to school-wide Title I funding, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And that's going to involve stakeholders at Faber as well. Finally, goal 3, budgeting grants and other revenue sources. Those of you, who have looked at any of the work that we've done, know that we really have prioritized grants. We've applied for a lot of grants. We've gotten most of the grants that we've applied for, and it really has made a significant difference, in our small district. So, as I mentioned, the ESSER grants sunset at the end of September of this year, and so we have to be looking at ways to kind of fill that gap, and we also know that we're going to have facilities needs as time goes on, so we have to sort of plan and save for that. But just this year, we received about $500,000 in preschool expansion aid, which we anticipate going up to about $1 million next year. $76,000 from the High Impact Tutoring Grant, $68,000 for the Trees for Schools grant. We recently, a couple days ago, found out that we are being funded by the state for cybersecurity enhancement. And we also found out a couple days ago that we, as part of our partnership with Kane University, are being funded through the Minority Teacher Development Grant, which is really technical support and financial support to help improve the teacher pipeline. So we will keep working on these. We have 2 grants right now that are kind of in the pipeline. And, obviously this is going to be something that we'll continue to prioritize. Construction management. Here are the big construction projects. We know the big 4 and our work with Greyhawk. So we're in very good shape with all of this. Last item is the sound system to be installed this week in the auditorium right before the event, right? It's definitely going to happen. Maybe. It might definitely happen. The event's happening. And our work with Greyhawk, which you know and which we're very comfortable with. The last 2 indicators, ongoing projects and personnel and capacity. So ongoing projects is really just what are we doing on a day-to-day basis to identify things that can continue to improve the way that the school feels and operates. So we have some smaller projects. We had the STEM lab, which is up and running. We have the kiln, which was installed in earlier this month at Faber So now the Faber art teacher can do projects with clay rather. We have a lot of repairs, ceiling tiles, HVAC issues, painting. This room, for example, if you remember what it looked like before and what it looks like now, it's just wildly different. We have some adjustments to central office to provide more confidential space, some security enhancements, and some other things. Next year, we also there's a new law in New Jersey that requires schools, middle schools and high schools, to provide menstrual product dispensers in each of the girls' bathrooms as part of the menstrual justice sort of perspective. Because we also have athletics at Faber, we will have to provision some of the Faber bathrooms with those products as well. So that's something that we're looking at in terms of vendors and products and what might be best suited for a school environment. And we continue to update the board's operations committee, and board members, you have access to all of that, about the ongoing projects on a bi-monthly fashion. Finally, personnel and capacity. We really kind of shook things up this year. We totally changed the structure of facilities. We added a daytime and an evening custodial supervisor positions. This model has been great because we now have people who are directly overseeing the custodians and that have that custodial expertise. It's really improved the work that we've been able to do. We've identified a lot of training needs. We've done a lot of training already, but we're trying to increase the number of staff members that have Black Seal licenses. We have manuals that are pretty much finalized on cleaning practices and maps and things like that. And as much as we can, we're doing upskilling and cross-training. So we have 2 maintenance folks that are with us for the most part on a daily basis, trying to get our custodial staff to be able to learn some of those skills and trades has also been one of our priorities. We also have been looking at swing shifts and changing hours for folks. And as you know, we significantly increased compensation for our custodial staff members this year, which just, again, thinking about your salary every day is just not a great way to be. So if we can get folks to be comfortable in that, that's going to produce a happier and healthier workforce just as a baseline. We're also looking at capacity. Do we need additional staff members? And this is based on the FES from the Department of Education. And then we also have additional support where we need it, where people can just sort of jump in at particularly hot times. All of this is also being reviewed for the budget for this coming year. We've made some adjustments even just sort of on the fly, but we are planning for next year as well. So those are the 3 goals. And I will say, it's a comprehensive list in many ways, but it also barely scratches the surface. So there just is a lot going on in the district. I know that staff members sometimes feel like there are a lot of initiatives and a lot of change and things like that, and I feel that way as well. What I know is that the way that we're making this change, the way that we're implementing the types of things that we're focusing on is sustainable, and we've provided a tremendous amount of support and will continue to provide all of that support for staff members. So we're going through growing pains, and that's okay, because this is lasting change that will significantly transform the district over time. So planning for the future, we will continue to build and integrate systems. We're looking for new initiatives and expansion. We've talked about preschool. We are actively pursuing trying to get to 100% of our universe for preschool. And we also know that enrollment overall has increased. So we are looking at options for potential expansion or changing the grade levels at buildings if we can find another site or things like that. We will continue to promote professional development. Those of you who review the board agenda know that we have a significant amount of PD that's approved every month. And we will also provide tight oversight and management. So everything that we bring in, there's a reason that we're bringing it in. It has a very specific purpose. It has supports that are tied to it, and it has a goal that we expect to achieve. And we'll continue to think that way and look for feedback on ways that we can improve that process. So with that, I will open the floor to questions and comments from board members.
I have a comment.
So I just want to say to the, well, thank you to Mr. Ross and the administration and teachers for all of the work you've been doing to achieve these goals so far this year. I'll just mention that I had the opportunity to go to 2 different events that were listed tonight. So one was a Title III parent engagement night, and then this morning's ESL event that Dr. Gendrano and I attended. And if anyone on the board has the opportunity to go to these events, even if they don't pertain to you and your child, I highly recommend going, because it's really the best way to see the work of our district staff, like live. And it really reminds us why we're here, which is to support the work of the teachers and the administration. So if anyone has the opportunity, I highly recommend going to any of these family events, or asking questions about the professional development, because it's really the best way that we can get a chance to know how we're supporting the district.
Thank you.
100%. And just to add that I think it was a great event this morning. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Ms. Trapkin. It was great. I'm sorry that I missed it on Friday, but it really does. The smiles on the faces was more than worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments or questions about any of the district goal items?
Yeah, I would just also like to say thank you to you, your admin team, and to the teachers. It's really wonderful to see these overarching goals where all the energy and efforts are being focused on that, and it's starting to really impact student performance in a very positive way, and that's very exciting to see. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Ross, I do have a question in terms of goal number 2, support of the student wellness and school climate. Just curious, and how does the district support students who have been admitted into like inpatient care or institutions and address critical crisis intervention needs? And more specifically, as they come back to school, coming out of institutions or facilities like Rutgers University Behavioral Health Care and Gen Psych, avoiding a lot of the stresses that put them in there in the first place, but at the same time, having them achieve what's required of them and making that careful balance of coming from an inpatient care back into the school environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a challenging question. It's a challenging situation. It's highly individualized based on the particular student. What I would say is that, when students are out of the district in an out-of-district placement, there is, to my understanding, a good amount of information that's shared back with the district. And so when students do return to the district, those who sort of welcome the student back at whatever particular level it might be, have a good sense of the progress that the students made, what the particular manifestations might have been, what some of the challenges were, what some of the stressors might have been. Within the academic program, and obviously it also depends on the grade level, there are modifications to the program that the student goes through that are completely appropriate. So if you're in an elementary program or if you're in a middle school program, we're not counting Carnegie units of seat time. So, your credit attainment is not kind of the same thing. So really what we want for you is we want for you as a student to be able to come back and be successful. And so that means, pairing a student with the appropriate counseling support, psychological support, other resources that we have. Part of the work that we've done with Thrive has been to ensure that we have a second level of support from the daily caseloads of the school psychologists that are in the district. Now, Thrive is being paid for right now through the ARP ESSER grant, and has been for the last couple of years. So when we think about future planning, what we have to do is we have to recognize that this is a service that the district needs to provide. And so how do we do that? Do we continue with an outside provider? And we've had some successes and some drawbacks, right? And that's true of any provider. I will say that from, when I first came to the district, there was a significant problem with Thrive in terms of the number of cases and in terms of the caseload that they had. And what we did with Thrive was to say, you work for us, right? This is true of any contracted service provider. We're paying you to provide a service, and we will tell you what we need from you. And if you can't deliver that, then that's fine, and we'll just find someone else to do that. And that conversation turned out to be it didn't, come off like that. But that was essentially what it was. They responded very well to it and increased caseloads dramatically for their providers. And also those folks are doing more group work and things like that, which is much more responsive and proactive. Is it the same work that one of our own staff members would do? Probably not. And could we ask more of one of our own staff members to, in terms of engaging students? Probably. But again, cost is a factor, impact is a factor, and all of that. So for students that come back with those very, very challenging situations, the important thing, as with academic needs, as with any type of needs, is to identify what the tiered system looks like. And for some students, they are fine with their classroom teacher checking in on them on a regular basis. For some folks, it's your guidance counselor is a good resource. For some folks, it might be your case manager, right? And for other folks, they might be in situations for short-term or long-term where it's going to be a behavioral clinician or a therapist that has to, spend more time, addressing those particular needs. So I think for me, when I look at it from a leadership perspective, it's, do we have each of those levels set? Is it clear what the progression looks like? And do we have the supports that are available at each of those levels?
And to complete that, are we able to look at overall efficacy of these actions?
Yeah, I mean, there are some metrics. One of the things, obviously, when we look at things like discipline referrals, right? Let's take it out of the realm of mental health, right? If we look at discipline referrals, when we're more proactive with SEL programming in the school district, when we have more direct supports for students, when we recognize that middle school kids are just trying to learn how to be human beings, right? And they make all sorts of stupid decisions, right? When we think about those students that are in those situations, how we react to them really says a lot about us, and it also says a lot about our ability to reach those students in the future. So if we focus on punishment first and foremost, right, we're not teaching any lessons, and we're also not, giving the students any skills that they can use for the future. So, by adding the second counselor at the middle school, what we've seen is that there has been a significant drawdown in the number of discipline referrals. It's not to say that there aren't any, and when kids make decisions that violate the code of conduct, we still, have that conversation about what's an appropriate punishment. But coupled with that is not only the discussion real time about, why did you do this? What types of things were you thinking? And, how were you feeling? All of that. But it's also upon reentry, what can we help you with so that you don't do this again? And a lot of times, kids have this sense that they do one bad thing and then everybody is going to write them off. And maybe that's happened to them with another teacher. Maybe that's happened to them in their personal life. But as adults in school, we can never take that perspective. And we have to always be the ones that are up front and say, we forgive you, right? You screwed up. You got punished for it, appropriately. Now you're back, and let's figure out how to make this work. So that's, I think, a really good place for us to start. There's been a lot of stuff about the Instagram Dunellen Fights page, right? We're not seeing harassment and bullying in the schools. We're not seeing physical violence in the schools. There have been incidents, right? I'm not saying that those incidents aren't significant and serious, but we're not seeing that kind of systemic, out of control behavior from students. So I would say those are two areas that I would point to.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I have a follow-up question. I'm not super familiar with urban assembly, but from what you've shared, that seems to lay some of that groundwork at the school-wide as far as an intervention and how we interact with students.
Yeah, and I've talked about this a lot at the board table and certainly in committee, but my whole take on wellness in school is that it has to start with adults. If the adults are reacting badly to kids, and then the kids, react in response, that's the adult's fault. And I have seen a couple of those incidents here, and certainly I've been in education for 18 years, and I've seen a lot of them across the board. But I think the work with Urban Assembly, first and foremost, is about providing adults with the right mindset and approaches to deal with students, and to not put them in situations where they're going to be defensive, or they're going to be embarrassed, or they're going to be dejected, or they're going to be, looked down upon or something like that. And that is really part of the kind of the work of the Urban Assembly. The portal is called the Resilient Scholars Portal, right? Because it's about developing students that are resilient, right? But that comes from not kids going through some software where they're answering good questions. Like, in this situation, I would A, punch the kid, B, not punch the kid, right? It's that as adults, right, we're helping kids, and we're saying, man, you really screwed that up. Why'd you do that? Why'd you make that choice? Right? Not, you're a bad kid. I can't believe you did that. What's wrong with you, right? So it is a part of it, and it is something that no school is ever going to do perfectly, and none of us as humans do it 100% of the time. But if we can increase the balance from 70% to 80%, that's 10% better. That's more than 10% better, but that's 10 percentage points better. And I think that's the type of movement that we need. All right, so district goals, feel free to review them. If you have other questions, follow-ups, please let me know. It is 9:15. My superintendent's report is 2 full pages, single-spaced. So I will go through it quickly, try to. The enrollment report is in the agenda. We did have addition of enrollment. Bye, Ms. Drapkin. Good night. So enrollment for January 30th, pre-K has gone from 36 to 42 students because kindergarten dropped by 1 student to 97. First grade is 89. Second grade increased by 2 to 99. Third grade is 90. Fourth grade increased by 4 to 102. Fifth grade increased by 1 to 119. Sixth grade is 123. Seventh grade dropped by 1 to 106. Eighth grade is 111. Ninth is 102. 10th is 121. 11th decreased by 1 to 93. And 12th is 86. So currently at Faber we have 638 students, which is 596 K-12. 596 K-5, and then the 42 preschool students. The middle school, we have 340 students, and at the high school, we have 402 students. So middle school is up 30 from the from the end of last year, and it's only going to be more next year. I want to start with a couple of teacher-focused items. So I want to thank the DEA for the Make a Difference Monday. We had a little gap with some inclement weather in there, which is, and Martin Luther King and all of that. But Lee Best was recognized on January 2nd. Mr. Best is a DHS counselor. On the 22nd, it was the Faber pre-K team. And on the 29th, it was Nancy Rosales. This was yesterday, custodian at Lincoln Middle School. And we saw Nancy today at the breakfast, and she had escorted some students over, and she was like beaming and walking around like, she was so happy and so excited that she had been recognized by the DEA. So thank you for that, as always. I mentioned teacher leadership. So we had on the 22nd, last Monday, some ed camps at Faber Elementary School. We had Rebecca Kinsella, who's one of our first-year teachers. She did a session called Reaching ELL Students in the General Education Classroom. Lori Kivovitz and Sherry Krause, who are our interventionists, 2 of our interventionists, and Ms. Kivovitz is one of our first-year staff members here in Dunellen. They did small group intervention strategies. And then we had Caitlin Tedesco and Rachel Del Campo, another first-year teacher who did Exploring Hegarty. And then Brian Capriola did a session at Lincoln Middle School on Go Guardian Teacher, which I'm going to ask him to do at the high school and also at the elementary school as well, because it's a great tool that's vastly underused. ESL breakfasts, we've talked quite a bit about, so I won't spend too much more time on it other than to thank Ms. Khalifa, Ms. Malinowski, Ms. Ram, Ms. Delvecchio, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Jordan, and Ms. Drapkin for the amazing work We had 45 mid-year and summer exits from the ESL program this year, which is just amazing. Also, access testing starts next week, so we anticipate we'll get some more students that are going to be able to exit as well. Mr. Apkin and Ms. Moody from Faber submitted a proposal to present at the NJASA PSA Women's Leadership Conference in March, and it was accepted. Their proposal or their session will be building capacity through teacher leadership, and they will discuss district initiatives that have empowered staff members. Our preschool expansion update, we did have our 6 students, as I mentioned. We're looking at potential shifts in the timing of the day, notably delayed opening. The one delayed opening, whatever that was, the week of the 12th, was very hard for people to get to school because we had the regular drop-off and also the additional 70 preschool students. So we might have to shift that time back a little bit or forward so that not everything aligns at Faber. We have the NJ4S Student and Parent Academy sessions. NJ4S is the statewide student support services program. It's through the Division of Children and Families. This is the new model that they came out with this year, and I believe that we're the first school district in Middlesex County to use their services. We have 3 student sessions and 3 parent sessions. The first one was yesterday. The topics are cyberbullying, social media safety, and interpersonal and community relationship skills. And these are being presented both in English and in Spanish. So there's actually going to be 2 presenters, one in English and one in Spanish for each of the groups. We have on the agenda in the education section, Rutgers Computer Science Partnership Agreement. What's on the agenda is actually the IRB agreement. So this is required for studies where through a grant there's information, data that's collected from the participants. So this is a study that Rutgers has put together. This is through a federal grant that was co-written by someone in the Grad School of Ed and also Rutgers Computer Science. And so we look at Board Policy 9550, which is educational research projects, which requires that such a study be board approved. The benefits for the district are free technical assistance and curated resources. The network obviously through Rutgers and experienced education researchers. We're going to be looking at our courses in middle school, what resources we might be interested in putting together, and then looking at K-12 continuum. And in exchange for that, the district will be providing periodic data collection, which is primarily in the form of observations, surveys, and interviews. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. I had a good conversation with Dr. Gendrano this morning about the difference between a partnership that's just a partnership and a partnership that's actually a study. And so from the university perspective, it's important that you all be aware of what we're actually approving. Any data that is shared with the study folks will be scrubbed of any personally identifying information. Teacher data, teacher names are actually on the initial survey responses, but they'll be scrubbed before they're actually processed, and no student level data will be collected that includes any names or anything like that. So we're very excited about that. They seem very excited as well. And I've worked in the past with the woman from Rutgers Computer Science, and she's wonderful. So I'm excited about it. Dr. Gendrano mentioned the COVID-19 test kits or the COVID-19 situation. So one of the interesting things that the federal government has done recently is the Department of Education and the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, which is ASPR, announced a partnership to deliver free COVID-19 tests to schools. So this is basically free rapid antigen COVID-19 self-tests. And so I registered the district for this immediately when we heard about it, and we placed the first order Wednesday. And the test kits actually arrived today, which is amazing. So I ordered 2,000 test kits, which is 1,000 boxes of 2 tests each. And we brought 1 box each to Faber, the middle school, and the high school for an initial distribution to staff members. We will have a significant number of tests just from this round available to provide directly to students and also to keep in the nurse's office if we need to. But then this is also periodic. So if in 3 weeks we want to order more, we're able to do that. So I messaged the staff that the tests were available, and I understand that they were taken as well. So this is exciting. It just provides a resource for folks if there's a certain symptomology that comes out and they do want to get tested or have that test available. This at least provides them with the ability to do so for free. So it's very exciting. The district calendars are on the agenda for approval. The district calendar for this year is up for reapproval because we had an inclement weather day during one of the midterm scheduled early dismissal days at the high school. So we shifted that on the calendar officially. And then we also adjusted the inclement weather days for like the third and fourth inclement weather days, which on the original schedule, the next inclement weather day was scheduled to take the Friday of spring break off, and then it would be the Thursday. So we instead made it the March PD day and then the May PD day are the next 2 days that would be used as school days if we have more inclement weather, which for my sanity, I'm hoping that we don't. But we may. So the 24-25 calendar is also on the agenda for approval. The one that is listed or in the agenda, it says to be added. It is available on the website, and I have a copy for everyone when we get to that section. Actually, I'll get it. I'll pass it out. But it maintains, much of what we've discussed. I've had a lot of conversations about the calendar, some very good collaboration conversations with the DEA leadership, as well as the admin team. Everybody's got a different perspective, and so we sort of take all of the input and do the best that we can. So we've switched the in-service from 3 days to 2 days, and we've pushed new staff orientation up. So we have the 2 days in August. Students would start the Tuesday after Labor Day. And we switched the way the inclement weather days were built in. And we have spring break from the April 14th through the 18th, which is the week that Good Friday ends on, rather than starting with Good Friday. That is also the week of Passover. We don't have Jewish holidays in any other part of the calendar, nor do we have any other religious holidays other than that. Election Day is an interesting thing, and we've talked about a lot of models for that. But I've been in touch with the mayor's office to try to see if Lincoln Middle School can become not a polling place, and if the polling could be switched to the library. So the borough clerk's office is working with the county clerk to see whether that's possible. I don't know whether it's possible for this coming election. If it's not, then so be it. But in the future, I'd really like to not have to worry about polling at the school if possible. There are a couple of other items on the calendar that are just listed as TBD, but what I wanted to make sure of was that a general structure for the calendar was approved so that, it doesn't necessarily matter when the second marking period ends or the third marking period ends or when, conferences are at this point, but just a general structure of what the calendar looks like. So we can talk more about that. A couple notes about policies. There are policies in the education section and the personnel section. In the education section, there is a policy 5111 and a regulation 5111, which is eligibility of resident and non-resident students. I'm going to propose that we pull that one off the agenda, that we table that for a future approval. It is a very complicated set of policy and regulation, and our current policy and regulation, they're very specific to Dunellen, and I want to make sure that we don't miss anything by approving this too hastily. The other one is policy and regulation 3324 and 4324, which is the right of privacy. This policy and regulation has an optional section about the recording of students and staff members, which I don't love the wording for, and I'd like to have a conversation with the DEA leadership about it and also the admin team before we move on it. I think, I mean, we could pass it without the optional language, but I think there's probably a better compromise there. So I'm going to ask that when those get moved, if we could just make a note that those be removed from the recommendations.
So noted.
All right, and then last but not least, we have been engaging in a rapid but incredibly thorough hiring process for our new supervisor of early childhood education. And I just will provide a bit of an overview of the process. I am very excited. Our successful candidate is here. Her name is Jordan Gribben. Please wave. Yeah. So we're very excited. So we started with 53 candidates who applied. 21 of those candidates were screened virtually by me and Ms. Drapkin on Friday, January 12th. We then brought 9 candidates in person to meet with a small panel of administrators. That was Mr. Tennant, Ms. Drapkin, Dr. Santinello, and me. That was Thursday, January 18th, so the following week. We brought 4 finalists into the district on Tuesday, January 23rd to meet with a large panel of 13 administrators and teachers. The panel was 13 folks, comprised teachers and administrators. The finalists were asked to prepare a 90-day entry plan, and they answered a number of challenging questions about leadership and instruction, community engagement, preschool expansion, and other related topics. So after thorough conversations that evening and the following day, I made my recommendation with regard to the candidate. Ms. Drapkin and I checked references, and then I met that candidate to discuss the district, dive further into work experiences, engage just some more informal qualities. So this was a very thorough process that had a lot of stakeholders in it. And the one thing that I want to make very clear is that when we go through hiring processes, I always take, just with as much deference as I can, the feedback of the folks that are in these panels. Not everybody agrees, and sometimes it's very hard to make a decision. What I look for is trying to find the candidate that will best suit the district's purposes moving forward, that has the best set of qualities for collaboration and growth, and has the most potential to become really an amazing administrator. At the end of the day, this is about trying to find someone who can serve our students in the best possible way that they can, and to inspire our staff members to be the best that they can. I believe that I found that person with Ms. Gribben, and we're very excited to have her. So Ms. Gribben excelled during the interview process, and references just rave reviews, so you can thank them, buy them a bottle of wine. They talked about her collaborative and supportive personality, how successful they thought that she would be here as a supervisor, and just her love of education. So Ms. Gribben currently serves as an instructional coach in the Scotch Plains Fanwood School District, and she works across a number of schools supporting literacy instruction. She began her career in 2007 and has also served as an elementary teacher in a variety of grades and as a special education teacher. She has presented professional development in a wide variety of settings and recently presented at the National NCTE, which is National Council of Teachers of English, Convention of English Leaders Conference in Columbus, Ohio, which is very impressive. She was also selected last year as Scotch Plain Fanwood's New Jersey Exemplary Educator of the Year, and she holds 2 master's degrees, one in curriculum and instruction, one in special education, and she lives in Greenbrook with her husband and her soon-to-be 1-year-old daughter, Rowan. So we're very excited to have her join the team. I can't wait for you to get started. I hope they'll let you out early. I'm sure they won't. But when you do come to the district, you will be welcomed with open arms, and we're very excited to have you on board. So, yeah, awesome. So with that, I think I've run out of words.
Okay, I'll take it back. And just to follow up, looking ahead, so we have just to follow up, looking ahead, early dismissal coming up this Thursday. We are closed on the 19th of February for President's Day, and then our next board meeting on the 20th of February. So Moving on to item number 9. Wow, item number 9. Public comments on agenda items. So the board invites public comment on agenda items only from members of the community in accordance with Board Policy 0167. Public comment sections are intended to provide an opportunity for members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. The board and administration will be taking notes during public comment, but will not provide substantive responses to questions or concerns raised by individual speakers. If necessary, the superintendent may provide a brief response after the entire public comment period is completed. The board recognizes and welcomes feedback from the community, but is not at liberty to engage in back and forth dialogue with members of the public during this portion of the meeting. Prior to making your public comment, please state your name and municipality. Please note that all statements must be directed to the presiding officer. Please come forward to the mic at this time if you'd like to make comments on agenda items only. Okay, last call. Okay then, moving on to item number 10, education. At this time, I'm going to turn the ball over to Mr. Duggan, who is our chair for the Education Committee. Mr. Duggan.
Thank you, Dr. Giordano. The Education Committee met on January 24th and discussed a number of items, including an update on a wide range of curriculum and instruction items presented by Ms. Strapkin, including ESL mid-year breakfast exits held on January 26th and January 30th, the expansion of the district's after-school programs, including new STEM offerings, instructional coaching initiatives throughout the district, and parent engagement events. Discussions about the 23-24, 24-25 district calendars, the development of heritage speaker courses for Spanish-speaking students, the district's ongoing work with Urban Assembly, a computer science partnership with Rutgers, and a number of confidential items. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. So moving on to item 11, education action items. Looking for a motion to approve 11A through F as a block, noting tabling 5111, thank you, P and R 5111, which is in 11D, as well as tabling I, oh wait, sorry, no, that's right, right, there's that one, for now. So looking for a motion for those approvals, minus the two I mentioned for tabling. No one wants to approve? Can someone make a motion?
Which one are we tabling? D?
Tabling D, the part where it talks about P and
Just the two
R
policies.
5111.
All right, I got you.
Policy, sorry. That's the one for the eligibility of residents.
Just that one.
Just
Yeah.
that one. So, looking
Approve
for-
9A, no, 11A through F.
Second?
Okay, open for questions and comments. So, just to note here, right, so a couple things that are in here. First of all, item F, that's the one about the computer science thing that Mr. Ross had mentioned earlier. So just want to note that was down there. We talked about D already, and the discussions, we're open for discussions on B and C, which are the current district calendar, as well as C, which is the next year calendar for 24-25, if there are comments that anyone would like to make regarding that. And I believe the calendar is here. Mr. Ross just distributed that, so if there's anything you guys, before we approve, if there's anything you guys want to talk about or bring
Yeah,
up.
I would, though. I'd just like to make a comment about 11C, the 24-25 calendar.
Please.
First, I just want to acknowledge all the work, Dan, that you put into making the calendar. I know it's not it's not an easy thing to put together, but I would rather see the two PD days, the Tuesday, Wednesday, immediately following Labor Day. I'm not a fan of starting before Labor Day, ever, honestly, but I think maybe this year, maybe optically it appears worse because those days are in August and not in September. So just from my viewpoint, that's how I feel about that. I'd rather see those two PD days on the 3rd and the 4th, with the first day of school being the 5th.
I second those sentiments.
Thank you both.
Question on, what are we on? Same thing, C. Dan, you had mentioned that the borough is working to see if we cannot have a school be a polling place and that could be moved to the library. Would that change at all the Tuesday being just a PD day if that were to happen next year?
It would. It probably would. It would likely mean that we would have school for students that day. And so what that would do would be a day of school that we would need to put back in place. But that day would just become a day for students. It would then affect graduation, or we would need to put in another day somewhere to keep it on the Tuesday.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I also noticed that there are no days off for teachers for the months of September and October. Teachers as well as students often benefit from a mental break. If there's any place to put that in for them, I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Yeah, we've talked about Columbus Day, as being, probably the obvious one, since we're not looking at religious holidays. So I mean, again, this is where I'm at right now. Small changes like that, I think we can still work through if we need to make adjustments in February. Big changes, I want to make sure that we have those set so that everybody has clear expectations about what we're doing moving forward. But again, I'm not, really not tied to October 14th in the way that it's outlined with, I'm not dead set on it in any particular way. In the comments that I did share this calendar with the DA leadership, and we had a wonderful conversation a couple of days earlier about it, where concerns were raised, and I appreciate the spirit of collaboration and openness of discussion, even when we disagree about things. There are some parts of this calendar that I'm still not really 100% sure on. I don't know that I'm ever going to be, I'm never going to think one way is necessarily better than another. There are some things that I have very strong feelings about, but a lot of the rest of this, I'm certainly open to suggestions. So as I mentioned, we do need to reapprove this calendar with some specific items that are listed. There is some TBD pieces here and some other pieces. So, I welcome, further conversation about that.
Any other comments?
I have a question. So when we vote in a few seconds, if we vote yes, then this becomes the calendar?
Last call questions?
I'll just ask, so if we vote yes, it approves the calendar, but does it give us another opportunity to change it?
I mean, you can always change
I mean,
anything. It's a question of notice. So what I think is important is that major aspects of this calendar be provided as far in advance as possible to provide appropriate notice to families and staff members who are thinking about travel plans or other sorts of items. As I mentioned, whether Columbus Day is a professional day or a day off from school, I think that that's probably not something that's going to really cause a significant challenge for students and staff members at this point at the end of January. Spring break, the opening of school, winter break. I think those are the big ones. So, yeah, and again, regardless, we do have to have this calendar come up again for reapproval. But you know, big structural pieces is what I'm really most concerned about at this point.
Okay, last call. Okay, Mr. Pepe, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Anderson,
I vote yes, except for no to C.
Mrs. Condit,
Yes.
Mr. Duggan,
Yes.
Dr. Gendrano,
Yes.
Mrs. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Saunoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shep,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, with a no on C.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pepe. So moving on to item 12, personnel discussion items. So I chair that committee, so let me give you the report here. So the Personnel Committee met on January 24th and discussed a number of items, including discussions about the 2023 to 2024, as well as the 2024 to 2025 district calendars. We discussed the approval of the affirmative action team for the district's comprehensive equity plan. We discussed updates to the supervisor of early childhood education position hiring process. We also discussed updates regarding the federal government's COVID-19 testing kit distribution program for school districts, which we heard about, as well as a number of confidential items. So moving on to item 13, personnel action items, looking for, excuse me, motion for the approval of items 13A through L. 3, 3, 2, 4, and 4, 2, 2. Oh, thank you very much. That also means for item I, we're looking to table P3324, right of privacy, as well as P4324, right of privacy, which we believe requires additional discussion. So approval for 13A through L, minus tabling those two policy items.
Approve 13A through L, including the tables.
Second.
Okay, open for discussion and comments. Just to note quickly, item A there's an updated list that was added, and for L, that includes a sidebar discussion that came as an addendum.
Question on F.
F is in Frank? Okay.
I see all of the necessary personnel listed. The last line of that table is a community member. However, is there a conflict because that community member is also a school personnel?
I think we can look into it. This is a requirement for CUSAC as part of the AA team, but certainly if there is, we can find another community member who could serve on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I will point out that on the addendum items, we have two items. One is the updated staff list, which includes Ms. Gribben, and then also the sidebar with the DAA for the addition of the position, Supervisor of Early Childhood Education, in the recognition clause, and also the salary schedule for the 23-24 and the 24-25 calendar years.
I would also just like to add, I think this was noted earlier under K, just the amount of PD is awesome, 33 items. this month, which is, I don't know if that's a record, but it's certainly up there, which I think is rather impressive and really does, show support and, we're really into this professional development thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Not just lip service.
Mr. Anderson is indicating that you should speak more directly into your microphone.
We have 33 items on the PD list. I'm sorry. I'm probably mumbling a little bit, so yes, just to say that I think it's wonderful that we have that many items on there, and we continue to do so. I think it's great that we have that.
Thank you.
And in order to have all that PD, we've had a lot more substitutes, so that's wonderful. So we can, because you can't have one without the other.
That's right. Yes, I thank our community for that. We have three new staff member, or 3 new folks who are approved as substitutes. One is actually our destined to be Spanish teacher, who is in the process of getting his Spanish certification through the limited CE program. So we're approving him as a substitute. He'll be able to work for a certain number of days as he continues to go through the process. That's Peter Conroy.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Mr. Pepe, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Duggan?
Yes.
Dr. Gendrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Satanoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful.
You're official. Congratulations. Also, you can go home now if you want. Since you have work and you have a resignation letter that you have to prepare for tomorrow. Yes. You too. Absolutely.
Good night. We'll see
Grab one of those addendums on the way out, and you can that can be your record.
Okay, moving on to item 14, Operations Committee Report. I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Walker.
Thank you. The Operations Committee met on January 24th. I was present at the meeting along with Dr. Gendrano, Mr. Sadnoy, Mr. Ross, and Mr. Pepe. Discussed at the meeting were discussions about the 23-24 and 24-25 district calendars, an update on the status of district's audit for the 22-23 school year, planning for the 24-25 district budget, and a variety of confidential matters. That was it.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 15, action items for operations. Looking for a motion to approve items 15A through O.
Motion to approve 15A through O.
Second.
Okay, open for questions and comments. I did have one item, actually a couple things to note here real quick. Under F, swim team supervisor, in the table, the increase should be 0 per hour.
That's a good point. You see that, Mr. Pepe?
Right. Either that or current rate would be 0. We don't actually have that, so it's kind of.
Oh, we don't. Okay. I was following the flow.
Where was that?
It's in item F. It's the last item. It's the only one that's the hourly rate because we don't actually have a swim team.
Oh yeah.
The pool's on the roof.
We will fix that in the minutes. Thank you, Dr. Gendrano.
Yes. It's cool. We had 2 kids who went to GMCs though, which is great. Yeah. I'll just point out a couple key items. The audit documents are D and E. That's the CAFR, or the ACFR, and the corrective action plan. We have a long list of our professional development providers in G through L, and those folks will be presenting at upcoming meetings or have already. And then item N is the long-range facility plan major amendment. We approved this item last year, and actually do we need to rescind that approval at a future board meeting?
I don't believe so, but I'll double check.
Okay. We received a second offer for the LRFP major amendment, and this is a company, LAN, which gets very good reviews from folks who use them, especially facilities directors who sit on this board, as well as others. And so we are excited.
Transparency.
It is a significant decrease in price. And the district has been using Spiesel for many, many years through many, many projects, and I'm sure that they've served the district well in a number of capacities. We are also exploring whether there are other architects that could be used either in conjunction with Spiesel or as a replacement to Spiesel in the future. So this is the type of project which is a nice kind of dip your toes in, first step, get to know you type of thing. So we'll see how they do with the major project. This is required to be completed by May, right? May. So
This is the long-range planning, right?
long-range facilities plan. And we will have also, February is about the time that our work with our demographer should start ramping up a little bit. So we'll have both the demographic study report and the LRFP updated by June or by May, which I think will put us in a really good place for planning in the future.
When was the last LRFP amendment done?
2019.
So right before the referendum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Spiesel?
Yep.
And just to note too, O was an addition as well, supplemental allocation, just so that you have that. It wasn't on the original agenda, but it was added as well. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that, but just to.
Yeah, so we get funding for students who are experiencing homelessness, and this is just an additional allocation because the state had a little bit of money left over. So we just put the amendment on there.
Excellent. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, looking for, we've gone through the different items here. We have the approval open. Any last comments, questions, things you want to mention here before we vote? Okay, Mr. Pepe, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Duggan?
Yes.
Dr. Gendrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Mr. Saanoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, wonderful. So moving on to item number 16, old business. Any old business, business from previous meetings you'd like to bring up? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Moving on to item 17, new business. Any new business you want to bring up? Okay, moving on to.
Yes.
Oh, Mr.
Just
Sano.
feedback that I've received. Just curious, in terms of the pay for schools, lunch money capture system or whatever, when a student graduates out of high school and they still have a couple dollars in that account, right now there's no way to retrieve that money directly. Is there a process to enable parents to recover some of those dollars that are left in that account?
I think that's a great question that we can look into.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I thought I got it back when my son graduated. I'm pretty sure I got a refund.
Actually, I can answer that question if you'd like me to.
Oh, if you know the answer, please.
Yeah. So
There's just, yeah.
when we have someone who leaves, they have an option of doing one of two things, but they have to reach out to the business office and request. If they have siblings, we can transfer the balance to a siblings account. If they do not have any siblings, or if they're moving out of town, then we do have a process. If they request a refund, it's a purchase order process.
Oh,
So they
great.
just need to reach out to the business office.
Is there any way to enable parents to know that information? It's not very clear on the site when I investigated it and how to do it. It's not really clear.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah.
We can update the website to make it clearer.
Great feedback. Anything, any other points anyone wants to bring up under new business? Okay. Moving on to item 18, President's Remarks. Nothing to add from what I had said before. And moving on then to item 19, public comments on any issue, any topic. So the board invites public comment on any issue, topic for the members of our community. In accordance with Board Policy 0167, public comment sections are intended to provide an opportunity for members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. The board and administration will be taking notes during public comments, but will not provide substantive responses to questions or concerns raised by individual speakers. If necessary, the superintendent may provide a brief response after the entire public comment period is completed. The board appreciates and welcomes feedback from the community, but is not at liberty to engage in back and forth dialogue with members of the public during this portion of the meeting. Prior to making your public comment, please state your name and municipality. Please note that all statements must be directed to the presiding officer. Please come forward to the microphone at this time if you'd like to make comments on any issue, any topic. Okay, last call. Public comments, any issue, any topic? Okay, moving on to item 20, executive session. So the Dunellen Board of Education will now adjourn into executive session to discuss items that fall within specific exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-12B. Confidential matters discussed by the board during this executive session include items related to individual privacy, collective bargaining, pending or anticipated litigation, as well as personnel. Any discussion that does not need to remain confidential will be made public as soon as it is practical. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. All individuals who may be discussed in executive session have been adequately notified. Action will not take place after the conclusion of the executive session. So may I have a motion, please, to move into executive session?
Motion to move to executive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll see you guys back on February 20th in about a month.